US 278. Alright. Alright, we will conclude the 278 series by compiling all 4 parts into one video as well as a bonus request. The entire route goes from Wickes, Arkansas to Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Please do everything you see in the lower left-hand corner, and let's get started. First, we are going to look at 278 eastbound. Let's get started. Alright, here we are on US 71. We are meeting junction US 278. 71 is signed for Mina, and 278 is signed for Nashville, which I think is an amazing choice. But, oh no, US 278 has been ejected from the game. We have umpire 18 miles, single line, and no sign of Nashville anywhere. Umpire is not even an incorporated city, so I really don't know why this is signed. If you're only signing one thing, how do you not sign Nashville? You signed Nashville from the start, so why do we have this? After umpire, we have Junction US 7011 and Dierks 14. I don't understand this either. We don't even get Nashville on this sign either. Dierks is signed because that's around where you meet US 70, but you meet US 70 before you get to Dierks, so it's like, I don't understand the emphasis on this. When people think of Dierks, they probably just think of Dierks Bentley. So yeah, I don't get this either. And here we are on a concurrency with US 70 and US 278. We have Dierks and DeQueen. So we have the city signed on 70 West. This is the wrong way concurrency, by the way, which I guess is kind of funny, but then we have Dierks 3 for 278, and I guess both for both roads, but why no Nashville? This is the third mileage sign after, like, Nashville was signed at its beginning. We don't even have Nashville here. However, the next mileage sign we get after the concurrency, we have Center Point 10 and Nashville 19, so Nashville does make it onto the sign, but it's only 19 miles from here, so I don't really know why they didn't just sign it on the other mileage signs. And here's another sign for Nashville. We have Junction US 371-7 and Nashville 9. We are meeting with 371, and we will be concurrent with it while in Nashville. So we see Nashville left here. And to split off from 371, we have 278 East turn right at the stoplight. And one of our next directional signs we see Hope is the control city for 278, which I agree with. Here's a mileage sign listing Hope. We have Junction I-34, Hope 5. Good sign here. I-30 is the main reason for signing Hope, so I fully agree. Here we are meeting Interstate 30 is signed for Little Rock and Texarkana. And here is our next sign we see for 278 is signed for Roston and Camden. So I agree with Camden here. We are meeting US 67 in Hope. No control cities given, but here we see the shield right here, as well as 278 Business. East 278, turn left here. And our next mileage sign, we see Roston and Camden. So Camden is on the bottom line, so they are consistent. Here we are in Roston meeting with 371 again. We see 371 signed for Prescott, and the next mileage sign are the same cities that we saw on the 371 video. We see Magnolia and Camden here. And as 278 splits, it is signed for Camden again. And another mileage sign we see Camden 16, so they don't list the city between here and Camden, since we're getting kind of close to it already. We are in Camden. We meet with US 79, is signed south for Magnolia. And here we are splitting from US 79. 79 is signed for Little Rock. Kind of interesting, Little Rock is signed from all the way down here. And then we have East Camden and Hampton as our control cities for 278. And here's another sign with the same cities before. We were meeting with State Highway 274 for East Camden, and then Hampton is our next control city. We also see a sign for Southern Arkansas University Tech up here. Our next mile sign, we see Locust Bayou 7, Hampton 19, and Warren 46. Hampton and Warren, I think, makes sense because you meet other U.S. highways in those areas. And here we are meeting US 167 here in Hampton. Past Hampton, Warren does become the primary control city here. And once we get closer to Warren, we see Monticello as the next city signed, which also makes sense. Here we meet US 63 here in Warren. And up here in Monticello, we see Monticello Strait, Pine Bluff, and Hamburg for US 425's control cities. And here's a nice look at downtown Monticello. East 278 is now signed for Junction, Arkansas 277 and McGee 24. McGee is where you meet with US 65. And as we get closer, we do have Junction US 65 and 22 miles. East 278, once we meet with US 65, we have Lake Village, Eudora, and Greenville, Mississippi signed. Lake Village and Eudora is for 65, and Greenville is for 278. And here's another miles sign. We have the same cities as before, but we also have Dermont and 9 miles. And we are also concurrent with 165 as well here. Here we are splitting off from 65. We have 65 South and East 82 here in Lake Village. However, there is no 278 sign right here. However, we do have it on this miles sign. We have Greenville, Mississippi 16 and Greenwood, Mississippi 73. Two greeny cities right here. And here we are crossing the Mississippi River into the state of Mississippi. Pretty cool view right here. And we didn't see a Welcome to Mississippi sign on the bridge, but a few miles down past the casino, we do have a Welcome to Mississippi sign right here. And here we are in Greenville. We get to Greenville pretty soon, so I didn't look for a mileage sign around Greenville. We see Leland is the next control city after Greenville. And Leland is where you meet US 61, so 61 is signed south for Vicksburg, which I think is a good choice for 61. And then up here we have 61 North and East 278 for Cleveland, so they will be concurrent to Cleveland. And we see 82 East Greenwood right here. See Boyle, Cleveland, and Clarksdale on this side. So Clarksdale is what's signed after Cleveland. And we have Clarksdale signed straight here at an intersection in Cleveland. After that, we have Clarksdale on this mileage sign here. And another mileage sign we see, we only have Clarksdale signed, so at least when they sign one city, they sign the correct one. Here we are meeting US 49 South for Clarksdale and Greenwood. And further up, we have a future I-69 corridor shield here. So this is going to be a section of 69, this section of 278. And then here we have 278 East for Clarksdale and Batesville. So Batesville is the next signed city after Clarksdale, which I agree with. That's because you meet with Interstate 55 here. Our next mileage sign we see, we have Marks 16, Batesville 35, and Oxford 60. So Oxford is the next city signed after Batesville. And I fully agree because that is where Ole Miss is. So I think Oxford is definitely worth signing. Here at a directional sign, we see Batesville is still signed. And here we are in Batesville. We have 3 cities. 2 of them are for Interstate 55, and 1 is for US 278. We have Memphis, Oxford, and Grenada. Or Grenada. I'm not sure how it's pronounced in Mississippi, but 2 of those cities make sense. I don't really think Grenada or Grenada should be on there. So they sign the correct out-of-state control city here, but they do not sign the correct in-state control city here. So I don't really understand this. Here we are meeting US 51 here in the Batesville area. And here we are meeting Interstate 55, and is likely signed for Memphis and Grenada, like before. And at random intersections here, we have Batesville and Oxford signed, so Oxford is kept up. And here we are in Oxford. We have Old Taylor Road, which is the Ole Miss exit. We see the Ole Miss logo right here, as well as a University of Mississippi sign right here. And after exiting Oxford, we have Tupelo on the bottom line now, so Tupelo becomes our next primary control, which is a good choice. Oxford Tupelo is what is maintained right here. And once in Tupelo, we meet with US 45. US 45 South is signed for Columbus, and 278 will be concurrent with it. And here is 278 splitting off, and it is signed for Amory. Amory 8 miles right here. And once in Amory, we have a sign for Birmingham. That's an interesting one. 278 doesn't go to Birmingham, and it doesn't meet with any roads in Mississippi that do, but it does meet some roads in Alabama that will take you to Birmingham, or at least connect you with a road that does. So I do actually like this sign. I think signing Birmingham here is actually pretty good. I understand not signing it from, Columbus or from, Tupelo, because you would stay on Interstate 22 to get there. So I think having a Birmingham sign right here is just fine. Here we are exiting Mississippi. We have the Alabama state line sign right here. We don't have a Welcome to Alabama sign just yet, but up ahead we do have a Welcome to Sweet Home Alabama sign. Because, I don't know, I guess they have to reference Leonard Skinner every time. However, in Alabama, we don't have Birmingham signed here. We have Guin right here, which is a town where the cutoff to Birmingham is. So I do think it's at least worth signing, but I would rather see Birmingham here. Here in Guin, we have US 43. So I also think it's at least worth mentioning as a secondary because of US 43. And we will be concurrent with it. Here we are meeting Interstate 22 in Alabama. We have 22 West signed for Tupelo and 22 East signed for Birmingham. I think Memphis should be signed instead of Tupelo here. But Tupelo is probably the largest thing on 22 itself, so I mean, I understand them signing it. And on Interstate 22, we have Hamilton signed for the concurrency of 43 and 278, so Hamilton's our next city. And here is the split with 43 and 278. We turn right here at the stoplight. And then after Hamilton, we have Double Spring signed, which I don't love. I know there's not really a lot between here and Coleman, but I would rather see Coleman signed instead of Double Springs. However, Double Springs, I imagine, is probably a touristy area, so I understand them signing it, but I probably would rather see Coleman here. And Double Springs is on the mileage signs as we head east. And once we get closer to Double Springs, we do have Courtemanche signed. I know Courtemanche is a little far away, so I guess that's why they signed Double Springs as well. And once we pass Double Springs, Courtemanche is maintained. And once we get closer to Courtemanche, we just have a single line city for Courtemanche, so Courtemanche 14. And here we are meeting with Interstate 65. We have Huntsville and Birmingham signed. We have Courtemanche and Double Springs signed on Interstate 65. Courtemanche is signed because we haven't quite made it to Courtemanche yet. Here we are in Courtemanche meeting US 31. East is signed for straight ahead. And coming out of Courtemanche, we have Gadsden 51, single line for it. But if you are having one line signed for it, I think Gadsden is the correct choice for 278. There's not a whole lot between Courtemanche and Gadsden, so I definitely agree with this. Gadsden is where you meet Interstate 59, and it's a sizable town, so yeah, I agree with this. Here we are meeting highway along the route. We have Gadsden still signed straight, and Birmingham signed right here, so they do sign Birmingham. Here we have Sneed and Gadsden, so Gadsden is maintained. Here we are meeting US 431 here. We will be concurrent with 431 South as we turn right. And here we are, I believe this is in Atala, but we also pick up US 11, and we're still signed for 278 and 431 as we turn right here to Interstate 59. Here we are meeting Interstate 59. We have it signed for North Chattanooga and South for Birmingham, which are the correct choices. And here on Interstate 59, it is signed for Tala for going on westbound 278 and Gadsden for eastbound. Gadsden is correct because we're still a bit west of Gadsden, a bit west of downtown. And here's our best look of downtown Gadsden. We see this one tall building right here, but we don't really see a lot of others. Gadsden's not a huge downtown. And coming out of Gadsden, we are turning left right here, and we are now signed for Hoax Bluff and Atlanta. So they signed Atlanta from Gadsden. That's pretty cool. And it keeps up. We have Hoax Bluff 5, Piedmont 22, and Atlanta 113. So they signed Atlanta from 113 miles out, which I do like a lot. And Piedmont is signed there because that is where the cutoff to Atlanta is. 278 is not the fastest way to Atlanta. There's some state highways and a little bit of a convoluted route to get to Atlanta. But Piedmont and Atlanta being signed is definitely the right choice because, again, it's a pretty convoluted route to Atlanta. But Piedmont being on there definitely works too. As we keep going, Piedmont is signed at this interchange. This sign looks horrible. Like, I don't know why it's in this bad condition, but we have Piedmont signed. And once we're in Piedmont, we are now signed for Center and Cedartown. So Cedartown is a town in Georgia, but I do think it is the correct choice because we have already passed the cutoff to Atlanta. So Cedartown is the next sensible choice. Here we are at the Georgia state line, and we also see a Welcome to Georgia sign right here. Definitely a lot closer than some of the other signs on this route. Here we are in Cedartown. We are now signed for Rockmart. Here we are meeting US 27. And we will be signed for Rockmart again. And here, just past Rockmart, we are now signed for Dallas. This is Dallas, Georgia, not Dallas, Texas. And here we are in Dallas. Now we are signed for Powder Springs. So we get a lot of like suburbs and exurbs signed here. It's a little tough to say what the control cities are going this route around Atlanta. I mean, for what they got, I mean, I guess it's somewhat sensible. And now, as we get closer to Powder Springs, we now have Austell signed. Austell, I think, is worth mentioning because that's where you meet US 78, so you meet the parent route there. We also see Marietta left here, so you go left to get to Marietta. Here we are in the Austell area. We have the junction with US 78. We also see a 2 I-20 shield right here for going straight. We'll be concurrent with East 78 right here. Here we are meeting Interstate 285, the Atlanta Beltway. We don't have control cities here. And looking at 285, 78 and 278 is signed for the Howell Parkway. So Atlanta treats this road like the Louisville area treats its 2-digit interstates. Or actually, no, it's 3-digit interstates. Yeah, so we just get the names of the roads, not any kind of control cities. Here we are meeting with US 19 and US 41, and we are still concurrent with 78 278. And we see the Atlanta downtown and also the Midtown Atlanta looming in the background, so I think that's pretty cool. And now we're on East 29 as we're concurrent with other 2 roads as we head towards Atlanta. We see a little bit of Georgia Tech right here. We'll see like a little bit of a better look at it going on westbound, but Georgia Tech was a little hard to see from this route. So here we are, we're about to meet Interstate 75 and 85. And on 75 and 85, we're signed for North Avenue and Georgia Tech. So we don't really have a eastbound control city here. We just have the name of the street, and we also have Georgia Tech right here. And here's our best look at downtown Atlanta. A really cool view going this way. Downtown Atlanta looks really cool as we are looking at southbound 75 and 85. And here's a good look at north, or not north, but Midtown Atlanta. We see Midtown Atlanta here. So yeah, pretty cool. And then here we are meeting US 23. We'll be concurrent with it for a short while. And this is where 278 splits off of US 78 around the Decatur area. And on our way out of Atlanta, we signed for Lithonia, which kind of makes sense. I know Lithonia is not that big, but that is where you meet Interstate 20. So I think it is worth signing coming out of Atlanta. Here we are meeting the eastern part of 285 from US 278, still no control cities. And here it is signed for the Covington Highway, since this is since Covington is where 278 will split off of Interstate 20. We see 285 North here signed for Greenville and Chattanooga. Here we are meeting Interstate 20. We have Augusta and Atlanta signs, so pretty sensible sign here. And as we merge with 20 East, we have a reassurance shield for both 20 and 278. And when this concurrency ends, 278 East is signed for Covington and Oxford. Oxford is a city near Covington, but we're not quite downtown Covington, so we have Covington signed. Coming out of Covington, we have Newborn 9 and Madison 26. So Madison becomes the next choice, and I agree with that. We have a single line for Madison, so they signed the correct single line right here. We meet Interstate 20 again, but we are not concurrent with it, and 20 is now signing 278 for Stanton Springs Parkway. So even outside the Atlanta area, we still have 278 signed for just the name of the road. And out of Madison, we have Greensboro signed as we meet US 129 and US 441. Next vital sign we have Greensboro 18 and Union Point 26. Aren't that good of control cities, like, just in general, but I think for this part of 278, I think this makes sense because, again, like, you wouldn't sign this for Augusta because you would just stay on 20 if you want to go to Augusta. So Greensboro, Union Point, there may be a couple thousand people each, but I think these are okay for right here. And now we have Union Point 7, Crawfordville 19, and Washington 31. So Washington isn't even on 278. It's on one of these state highways we meet. And Union Point, Crawfordville. I hope Crawfordville is not going to be our primary control. I wonder. Oh no, here we go. Crawfordville 12. Oh, Georgia, if you're signing one city, why is it Crawfordville? This should not be Crawfordville. In fact, it should be Warrenton signed instead of Crawfordville. And then we also have this Washington 20 here. I don't really know why we're signing stuff that's not even on the route, but here we are. And this is kind of weird. So that last sign we had Warrenton 16, but here, this is a bit further on. We have Warrenton 18. I don't know how the mileage increased, but here we are. And then we see Thompson is the next control city, which I think Thompson's okay. Then our next vital sign we have Thompson and Augusta signed. So Augusta is signed after Thompson. However, I think it's faster to take I-20 from the Thompson area to Augusta to get there faster. So it is a little weird to have Augusta, but we haven't quite made it to Thompson yet, so I'm okay with this here. And here we are in Thompson. We have Augusta signed straight, Washington and Rant signed for State Highway 17. So Augusta being signed here is a little weird, just because I think it's faster to go left and to get to I-20 to get to Augusta, but here we are. Next vital sign we have, we don't get Augusta, but we get Dierks and Harlem, which, again, I think is okay from Thompson just because, again, there's a faster route to Augusta. But after Harlem, it should be Augusta all the way. Here we are meeting US 221. I believe this is in Harlem. We also see a 2 I-20 shields to go left here. However, next vital sign we get after Harlem, we have Fort Eisenhower, which I think has a different name now, or maybe this is the new name. And we have Grovetown signed, which is just 1 mile beyond it. No, sign Augusta here, Georgia. Sign Augusta. It's one of your biggest cities. But we do get Augusta signed finally. Augusta 16 miles. And here we are meeting Interstate 520 in the Augusta area. We have 520 west for Atlanta and 520 east for Columbia. So here, Columbia really should be on the 520 west side because that's actually the faster way to Columbia. 520 east should be signed for something else. It should either be unsigned or it should be signed for, I don't know, maybe a suburb in the Augusta area. I don't know. It's tough to say on 520 east, but Columbia should be on this side. On 520 itself is called the Gordon Highway and is also signed for Fort Gordon, which I think is the same thing as Fort Eisenhower. So yeah, it's kind of weird. We have Fort Eisenhower and Fort Gordon signs everywhere, so kind of wish they would maybe pick one. And here we are meeting US 1. We will be concurrent with it for a while. Left here is signed for Augusta, right is signed for Rennes and Louisville. Here we are meeting US 25 south right here. Here's an exit for it, and I think we will also be concurrent with 25. And here's a good look at downtown Augusta as we cross the Savannah River. And here we are entering South Carolina. We don't have US 78 or 278 signed, nor do we have a Welcome to South Carolina sign. We just have a South Carolina State Highway 121 sign right here. So that's a little weird. But I mean, Augusta is kind of a big city on around the state line, and we're about to enter the North Augusta area. So I kind of understand why they don't have state welcome signs here, but at the same time, I kind of wish they did. Here we have a mileage sign. We have Aiken 15 and Edgefield 25. I don't think either of these are on 278. I think these are on US Highway 1. And here we are splitting off from US 25 here. 25 is signed for North Augusta, 178 and 278 is signed for Aiken. And we also have a Interstate 522 I-20 1 mile. Here we are meeting the, I guess either the eastern or the northern exit for Interstate 520. And 520 east is signed for Columbia and Atlanta, and 520 west is signed for Augusta. So this is a slightly better sign than what we saw before. And here we are splitting off of US 1. 278 is now signed for the Savannah River site and Jackson. I don't know why Jackson is signed. That's for State Highway 125 here. But let's see if that holds up. And it does. Unfortunately, we have Beach Island 5, Jackson 14, and Savannah River Site 18. I don't really know why Jackson is signed for US 278, but whatever. Jackson's kind of a suburb of Augusta, but it's not a very big suburb, so I don't really think that should be signed. And the next mile sign we have New Ellington 13 and Barnwell 38, which is probably what I would have signed since the US 1 split. Barnwell is the next correct choice. And out of Barnwell, we have Klein, Allendale, and Savannah signs. So we get Savannah. Even though 278 doesn't go to Savannah, I do think it's worth mentioning because Savannah's kind of a major city. Even though it's in Georgia, I do like that South Carolina signs it. Here at an intersection, we have Allendale signs. So we don't have Savannah, but we do have Allendale. And just past Allendale, we have Sylvania sign as we meet US 301, which I think is US 301's control city, not US 278's. And we have Hampton signed as we split off of 301 during this concurrency. So yeah, I think Hampton is a decent choice because I think there is a faster way to Savannah. Yeah, because here's US 321, and 321 is signed for Savannah, and then Hampton is still signed for 278. And our next mile sign we get Varnville 3, Beaufort 46, and Savannah 61. They do sign Savannah again because from Hampton there is another way to Savannah. In fact, here it is at US 601. 601 is signed for Savannah, and 278 is signed for Varnville and Beaufort, which I don't know about Beaufort. I know it's kind of in the Hilton Head Island area, but 278 doesn't actually go there, so I don't really know why that's signed instead of Hilton Head Island or maybe like Ridgedale or Hardyville, something like that, something that 278 actually goes to. And here we are at another sign. We have Ridgeland 14 and Hilton Head Island 70. So this is a better sign. We have Ridgeland, which is the first town where Interstate 95 goes to, that we kind of meet up with. We don't have a direct interchange with I-95 there, but we do have a cutoff to I-95, so that's good to sign. We also have Hilton Head Island, which is 278's last city, so that's a good sign right here. and we keep up with Hilton Head Island here, as well as Hardyville and Savannah. This is right here in Ridgeland. We're also with US 17 for a brief time. And here is the cutoff to I-95. And now we're signed for Switzerland, which isn't even an incorporated city, but I mean, this is just a directional sign, so maybe it's not the primary. Oh boy, here we go. We have Switzerland 1 mile. I really don't understand this sign. Why? Okay, we're not even signed for like an actual city. We're signed for, okay. So Google describes this as a hamlet. As soon as I saw that, I was like, what is a hamlet? But apparently it's kind of like a village. So we're signing a village from 1 mile away. I don't really understand this. Anybody who's going through this area, any local traffic, is probably going to already know where this is. I don't think we need 1 mile to show us where Switzerland is. Anyway, here we are in Hardyville. We are now signed for Hilton Head Island only for East 278 and also a 2 I-95 shield right here. Here we are meeting I-95. I-95 North is signed for Florence, and I-95 South is signed for Savannah. Savannah definitely works. 95 North, I don't know about Florence. Going northbound should probably be either Columbia or maybe Fayetteville. I mean, Florence is sort of okay going southbound, but northbound, yeah, I think they should probably just change it to one of those, or maybe co-sign it with either Columbia or Fayetteville. And here is our next mile sign after I-95. We have Sun City, Bluffton, Hilton Head Island, and Beaufort sign. These are all cities in the Hilton Head Island area, which I think doing it like this is okay. And our next mile sign we can find, we have Hilton Head Island 12. So we're getting pretty close to Hilton Head Island. So jump ahead to the Business 278 split. We have WM Hilton Parkway, and Cross Island Parkway is now signed for 278 East. And here we are at the very end of 278. We get a 278 end sign, and it ends right at this roundabout. And going left here is where Business 278 is. So it does form a bit of a loop around Hilton. Courtemanche437 requested this road here, Queens Folly Road. This is the road that he would take to get to the resort he usually stays at here. This may be the resort, I'm not sure, but anyways, thanks for the request. Start by talking about 278 westbound. So here we are in the Hilton Head Island area. This is on Business 278. Courtemanche really wanted to see this highway, so this part is going to be dedicated to him. I'll leave his channel in the description and maybe a card or two of his. So here we have Chaplin Park, town of Hilton Head Island. This is a way to one of the beaches. And here's another picture I found. This is the Disney Resort at Hilton Head Island, around this area. So it's pretty cool to see that on Business 278. And then a bit further down, we have Junction 278 proper at this roundabout. So it begins right here. And as we're leaving the Hilton Head Island main area, we see a nice view of it from behind us. And further on, we have 278 West, 2 I-95, and Savannah, and Business 278 East here. 2 I-95, I think that works, but Savannah, I'm not sure about Savannah, since you don't... The fastest way to Savannah isn't going to I-95. There's a faster way to Savannah. So I think they should probably just sign Hardyville here instead, because it's the fastest way to Hardyville. So I'd say sign that until like you meet the cutoff for Savannah, and then you can sign this Savannah. And here we are meeting a intersection along the way. We have Sun City, Hardyville, and Savannah. So they do list Hardyville here, so that's pretty good. Here we are approaching Hardyville, we have I-95 signed south for Savannah and 95 north for Florence, just like before. And on I-95 itself, we have 278 signed for Hardyville and Hilton Head Island going the other way, since we're not particularly close to downtown Hardyville yet, but I think this is okay for 95. And here we are meeting US 17 here in the Hardyville area. We'll be concurrent with it for a brief time. And I couldn't find a lot of mileage signs or interchange signs along the way, so I just picked this one. We're signed for Ridgeland, which I think is a good choice. And we saw the Switzerland on the southbound 17 and East 278, and I complained about that a lot in the last part. And here we are in the original area. 278 will now split from 17. And 278 is now signed for Hampton. However, on the way to Hampton, we don't get Hampton signed here. We get Varnville and Allendale, which I don't really know about. And here we are in Hampton. We are meeting with US 601, and we'll be concurrent with it for a brief time too. We are now signed for Orangeburg and Augusta, which 278 does go to Augusta, but it's not the fastest way, but it does meet a state highway or two that will take you to Augusta faster than going on 278 the whole way. So I think this is a good sign. I like that they're signing Augusta here. And here we are splitting from 601. We have 601 signed for Orangeburg, and 278 is now signed for Brunson and Augusta. On the way, we do get a mileage sign for Brunson and Augusta, so at least they're not, you know, changing the control cities here. And further down, we have Allendale and Augusta, so we do get secondaries along with Augusta, but as long as Augusta's on there, I think that's okay. And then 321 we're meeting here, and 321 is signed for Orangeburg and Columbia, so Columbia definitely works. And here we are joining up with US 301, and State Highway 125 is what takes you to Augusta, or to a faster route. And now 278 and 301 is signed for Barnwell, which I think is a good choice because, again, you wouldn't sign Augusta because you would be going straight here. So I think Barnwell definitely works as the next choice. And continuing on, as 278 splits from 301, 301 is still signed for Orangeburg and Charleston. And 278 is signed for Barnwell, 17 miles. So pretty good sign right here. Along the way, we have Wilson, Aiken, and Augusta signs. So a lot of these are fairly close to Augusta, but Augusta being on there definitely works. And along the way here, we're signed for North Augusta and Augusta just after passing through Barnwell. I'm fine with North Augusta as long as Augusta's on there. I would not be happy if it was just North Augusta. We are meeting with US 1 and US 78, the parent route, and we also have a 2 State Highway 421 shield right here. And we will be concurrent with US 1 and US 78 here. We see the sign right here. We see North Augusta going straight, and then Augusta is for these 3 roads. We do see a 2 I-20 west straight ahead, and a 2 I-520 if we're going right. Here our meeting I-520 is signed for Columbia and Atlanta. And here we are crossing the Savannah River, looking at downtown Augusta. So pretty cool view. And here we are entering Georgia. We have US 78 and 278, as well as US 1 and US 25. So I like that they signed all of them, because South Carolina only signed US 1 and either US 25 or US 78. They had no mention of 278 going the other way, but at least Georgia's doing a little bit better here. The only thing I'm going to complain about is that there's no state welcome sign around here. Maybe there's one down the line, but there's not really one for the next 4 or 5 miles here, so that's a little weird. Here we are splitting off from US 25. 25 is signed for Waynesboro. And then here we are splitting off from US 1. US 1 is signed for Rennes and Louisville. And 278 is now signed for Fort Gordon and Thompson. Thompson, I think, works, and Fort Gordon is at least worth mentioning, so pretty good sign right here. We are meeting 520 again. 520 East is signed for Columbia, 520 West is signed for Atlanta. Again, like, I think Columbia should be on the west side, but that's just me. In the last part, I said this should either be unsigned or it should be like a suburb. I actually think it should be the airport instead, so I think the airport is what should be signed on the east. And on 520 itself, we are signed for the Gordon Highway and Fort Gordon. And after we get past 520, we are signed for Harlem 15, so we don't have Thompson, we have Harlem signed instead. But I don't mind this too much, since like Thompson and Harlem are about similarly sized, and you meet like some highways in the area, so I'm okay with Harlem here. And here we are meeting Fort Gordon. We are still signed for Harlem here. And after Harlem, we are signed for Thompson, as we're meeting US 221 here. And as we pass Harlem, we have Thompson and Warrenton signed, so a pretty good sign right here. I think Warrenton's sensible after Thompson. And going straight here in Thompson, we are signed for Warrenton. And here we are meeting, I believe this is Truck 278 and State Highway 12. We are now signed for Atlanta, which is interesting. However, at an interchange, we have Crawfordville signed instead of Atlanta or anything else, so I don't know about that. But the next model sign, we see Crawfordville 13 and Union Point 25, so that's a little bit better. At least it's not like a single line city for Crawfordville like we saw in the eastbound. Westbound, I'd say this road is a little more sensibly signed going westbound. Eastbound, it's a little bit of a mess. And here we are meeting Interstate 20. 20 is signed for Atlanta and Augusta, so great job here. On itself, we are unsigned for 278. And here we are past I-20, and we are now signed for Washington and Crawfordville. Again, Washington's not on the route. It's signed because it meets a state highway that goes to Washington. So I don't know about this. I mean, I would prefer like a different city, maybe Union Point, maybe Greensboro, something like that. But I don't know. This is a little weird. But going on a little further, we don't have Washington signed anywhere. We have Union Point and Greensboro, so I think this is a little better. And now we have Greensboro and Madison once we're past Union Point, so good job here. And then past Greensboro, we have Madison and Atlanta signed, so there's not really a lot of cities left to sign, so they do throw in Atlanta, which I think is good. Because again, this route does follow I-20 for a while, so having Atlanta signed in on all these is a little weird just because you would be better off on 20. So I'm fine with switching up to some, like, you know, somewhat major towns. So I think this is pretty good here. And here we are meeting with US 129, 441 here in Madison. And here we are splitting off from those roads. 278 is on the shield now. And here we are heading further. We have Rutledge, Covington, and Atlanta. So pretty good sign here. I don't really know why Atlanta has to be like stapled on this sign. I guess they decided to add it in. It must have just been Covington before, but at least Atlanta's on here now, so I won't complain too much. But yeah, pretty good sign here. We got Covington, which is where we meet I-20 again, and then Atlanta is the next like sensible place to sign. However, Covington is signed at the interchanges though. And here we are meeting I-20 in Covington. We have 20 East and 20 West here. And we will be concurrent with I-20, so we have a reassurance shield for both 20 and 278, so that's good. And here we are splitting off from I-20. Just before we get to Atlanta, we have 278 West signed for Turret Hill Road. We are meeting 285. 285 doesn't have any control cities on the interchanges. And I didn't show us any signs for 278 because we saw some in the eastbound video. Mostly because they do the Kentucky treatment for the 3-digit interstates and just sign the names of the highways and not anywhere where we go. And here we are around, I believe this is Decatur. We're meeting with US 23, US 29 right here, and US 78. So we meet up with these highways here. And here we are. Still continuing straight here for 278 and 29. And we can see a view of Midtown Atlanta as we keep continuing going straight. And here we're meeting with US 75 and 85. We see signs right here. The 85 one's blurred out a little bit, so that's a little weird. But we are meeting these two interstates. And here's our look at downtown Atlanta. It's about the same view as going on eastbound, but it's still pretty cool that we can see downtown from this road. And here's a sign I showed on the part 2 video. We now have 78 and 278 signed for North Avenue and Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech on there is fine because it's right around this area. In fact, here is a decent view of Georgia Tech. Can't really see any of the like massive buildings around it, but we do see some nice looking buildings around here. And here we are with US 19, 41, and 29 here going left, and 278 will go right. And this is where 278 splits, but there's no signage for either 78 or 278, so that's a little weird. We are meeting 285 just outside of Atlanta going west here. We are now signed for Mableton as our control city, which I think is a decent choice. Like, I think signing some suburbs going out of Atlanta does kind of make sense because there's not really many major cities coming up. And here's another sign along the route. We're now signed for Austell. I believe is how you pronounce it. It could be different. But yeah, that's our next city, and that one's okay because that's where 278 and 78 will split. In fact, here we are with the split. 278 is going to go right here, 78 is going to go straight. And after the junction, we now have Rockmart signed. And after finding their mile sign, we have Rockmart and Cedartown sign. So Cedartown, I think, makes sense just because it's the first sort of town outside of the Atlanta metro. And we do have Cedartown signed at the interchanges. And here we are meeting with 27, and we will be concurrent with it for a while. And we split from 27, and now we're still signed for Cedartown since we're not quite there yet. And then from Cedartown, we are now signed for Piedmont, Alabama. And here we are meeting the Alabama state line. And we see in the distance here, we have the Welcome to Sweet Home, Alabama sign. Again, this is not one of my favorite stay welcome signs. Just the Sweet Home Alabama thing, that's just so silly to me. And here in Piedmont, we're now signed for Gadsden and Anniston. So Gadsden, I think that definitely works. And here we are along the route, we now have Gadsden signed. We have a 2411 sign right here. And here we are meeting with Interstate 59. 59 is signed for Birmingham and Chattanooga, which I said before are the correct choices, but I don't think Alabama should be signing Gadsden on 59. I wish it was like this on every sign in Alabama. And for by 59, we have 278, 431 for Atala and Gadsden. Atala kind of makes sense going westbound. Eastbound, not really, just because Gadsden's a lot bigger than Atala, but Atala, I think, works for westbound. And here we are meeting with US 11 and 431 as still concurrent with it. And we will be concurrent. We'll have a triple highway concurrency right here, going left here. And when US 11 leaves, we just have 278 and 431, no control cities. A little weird. But we do see that Coleman is the next city signed after Atala. So Coleman, I definitely think works going this way. We see Coleman on the bottom line right here. We meet with 231, and 231 signed for Birmingham and Rab, and Coleman is still for going straight here. We are in Coleman, meeting with US 31. This intersection was requested by Matt Weebler, so thanks for the request. And I meant to mention this in the part 2 video, but we have just the normal highway shields and fonts right here. But if we go back to the eastbound sign, we have this. So I don't know what's up with this font. It's a little weird. I don't know why they didn't just use the same font. Either this normal font or this weird looking font. I forgot the name of this. I know Xavier 456 said what font this is, but I'll have to check. And here we are meeting Interstate 65. For Birmingham and Nashville. So that's a little interesting that we get Nashville signed going this way, but we got Huntsville signed going the other way. So I don't know if this is an old sign or maybe they're switching back to Nashville, but I don't think they're going to switch back to Nashville just because Huntsville's pretty big. I think it is the largest city in Alabama now. So yeah, that's a little weird, but hey, I don't mind Nashville being on the sign. And this was also requested by Matt Weebler, same one as the US 31 intersection. So thanks for this too. US 278 Part 4, the final section. Alright, we'll conclude the 278 series by talking about the route from Coleman, Alabama to Wickes, Arkansas. Before I continue, please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, turn on notifications, everything you see in the lower left-hand corner. And let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. So here we are on Interstate 65. We are signed for Coleman and Double Springs. So from Coleman, we have Double Springs signed. I don't know if I like that, just because Double Springs isn't really huge, and Hamilton's not like, I mean, it's a little far, but it's way bigger. I think Hamilton should be signed instead of Double Springs, but Double Springs is like kind of a touristy place from what I see. Here we are, we have Double Springs on the mileage sign, so 27 miles away. And once you get close to Double Springs, we do have Hamilton signs, so at least they have Hamilton after Double Springs. And here is Double Springs. It looks pretty cool. I mean, bet it's really popular in this area. And after we pass Double Springs, we still have Hamilton sign, Hamilton 37, so good job here. And once we get closer to Hamilton, we have Tupelo sign, Tupelo 67. So, like, on paper, that sounds, you know, good, because, like, 278 does kind of go into, like, the Tupelo area, but they're signed Tupelo because of Interstate 22. And I guess US 78, but since it's Interstate 22 and they do sign Memphis from Birmingham, I really think they should just change this to Memphis and not Tupelo, or maybe make it Hamilton, Tupelo, Memphis, because Tupelo is kind of like secondary worthy, so I wouldn't mind that being the sign, but here, I think they should just sign Memphis. And here we are, getting a little closer to Hamilton. We have Hamilton, Gwin 28, and Sullivan 39. So So again, I don't really know about that. It's still in-state, and it's not really that big of a place. I don't really think that should be a control city, but I don't know. I mean, it's a little tough to say in this area. I mean, Ewan, I think, would do the job on its own, just because it's the last sort of major place in Alabama. Here we are meeting US 43. US 43 is signed for Ewan and Hackleburg, and we will be turning left here and be concurrent with 43. Here we are meeting Interstate 22 and US 78. At least they have a 22 sign here. A lot of the signs in this area only have US 78 still. At least we have a sign here. And it is most likely signed for Birmingham and Tupelo. And we have a Ewan sign right here as we continue. Here we are in Ewan. We have Sullivan signed, as I feared. We have Birmingham here, which Ewan is signed because like that's where the split 2 Birmingham is. So I like that they signed Birmingham from here, but Sullivan, I don't really know about that, man. I would just say like Amory, Mississippi, maybe. But luckily, we do have Amory signed and Sullivan, so at least they acknowledge that Mississippi exists. And here we are at the Mississippi state line. We also have Gavin Corp limit, and we're entering Monroe County. And a bit further, we have a mileage sign for Amory only, and we have a Welcome to Mississippi sign right here. And in Amory, we are now signed for Tupelo, which I think is the correct choice since it's the fastest way to Tupelo from here. Good job there. And then as we're meeting with US 45, we are now signed for Tupelo as we will be concurrent with it. As we're splitting, we're signed for Pontotoc and Oxford. So this is good dual control city signage. Like Pontotoc could be the control city, but it's really close to Tupelo. So I think throwing Oxford on there too is probably the better way to go. And we do get both of them on the mileage signs, so I like this use of dual control cities. And once we are in Oxford, now we are signed for Batesville. And along random interchanges along the way, we have Batesville and Oxford, so Mississippi is doing pretty good on this road. And here we are, we have the intersection with Interstate 55, and 55 is signed for Grenada and Memphis. Again, like I know before, they signed a correct out-of-state control city, but they can't even sign their state capital. They have to go with Grenada. Like, why? And here we are meeting with US 51 here in Batesville. And out of Batesville, we are now signed for Clarksdale, which I think is a good choice. And as we join with US 49 and US 61, we are now signed for Greenwood and Cleveland to reflect where these highways will go. So I think that's a good sign here. And here's another Interstate 69 corridor. I showed one in part 1, but now we have another one here. So we have a southbound one as well. Here, US 49 is splitting off for Clarksdale and Greenwood. And after that, we have Cleveland 34 and Leland 61. I don't really know about Leland just because it's so close to, Greenville. So I don't really know about that. But Leland is where 82 you meet, and you also like can continue straight on 61. So I mean, it has enough junctions to be signed. But I don't know, I probably would prefer Greenville here. We do also see it at random interchanges as well. Shaw and Leland is now signed. And then now we just have Leland 15. They can't even write a second line for Greenville or something else, Vicksburg maybe. And here we are splitting. We meet with US 82 and we'll be concurrent with 82 West for a while. It's time for Greenville, which is good, and then 82 East is for Greenwood. would. Further on, we have a West 82 sign, but we don't have anything for US 278, so I don't really love that. And from Greenville, we have Lake Village, Arkansas, which I think is probably the best choice, just because, I don't know, the cities in Arkansas we're going to meet are not going to be very big. So I think just signing like the highway junction cities, I think will work. And here we are meeting the casino. I think it's this Harlow's Casino. I can't really tell what that writing says, but this is the last casino we're going to see on this route. So here we go. And here we are crossing the Mississippi River into Arkansas. And our first sign we see, we have Lake Village going straight. Also, a Welcome to Arkansas sign right here. And here we are meeting south. US 65 is signed for Dora, and Lake Village is still signed for straight, since we're not quite into downtown Lake Village yet. And here we are splitting off from US 82. 82 is for going left at the stoplight. Further ahead, we have North 65 and 278 for Junction US 165 and McGee's 22. So I think this is pretty good, probably the best we could hope for here. And then as US 65 and 278 split, 278 is signed for Monticello and 65 is signed for Pine Bluff. So I think Monticello definitely works. Miles time we see, we have Monticello 15 and Warren 30. Both of them you meet some US highways. And they're like fairly sizable towns, so I think these work. West 78 we have Monticello 6 and Junction US 425 7. We have Warren going straight, and 425 is signed for Hamburg and Pine Bluff. Coming out of Monticello, we just have Warren signed, so Warren 15. And in Warren, we meet US 63. Definitely want to do a video on that someday. And we are now signed for Hampton, which, again, I think is okay. We have Banks and Hampton signed right here. Then further on, we have Hampton 4 and Camden 28. Camden, definitely the right choice after Hampton. Camden going straight, El Dorado and Fordyce here for 167 as we meet it. And here we're going to be concurrent with 278 and 79 here. And here we are in the Camden area, and we are signed for Magnolia here. And our next control cities after Camden are Roston and Hope. Roston, I think is worth mentioning because you meet US 371 there, as I talked about in the 371 video. Fine secondary, shouldn't be a primary though, but luckily for this road, they do portray as a secondary. As we see here on the Miles sign, we have Junction Arkansas 5713, Roston 26, Hope 46. So pretty good use of three control cities here. We have a control highway on the sign, but I think that's okay because I mean it's a fairly major, like say, highway. And after we meet that highway, we have Roston and Hope signs, so good sign here. Hope is still signed once we meet with US 371. And as we split from US 371, we have 278 signed for going straight here. I don't know why it's a left arrow. I think it really should just be a straight arrow. And we have another miles sign. We have Junction Arkansas 53.5 and Hope 17. So Hope is on the bottom line basically the entire way. We are meeting with US 67 here. We don't have control cities like before, but we do have a 2 I-30 shield up there, so that's nice to see. Here we are meeting I-30. I don't know if the sun's blocking these shields or maybe the shields are just faded, but here is I-30. And from I-30 we have Hope and Nashville sign. So Nashville is the city sign after Hope, so that's a good sign here. Nashville is on the bottom line. We have Washington, fairly sensible secondary 8. Then we just have Nashville on the bottom line. There's not really a lot else to sign. I mean, the next control cities after Nashville are not really that substantial. But Nashville 12 works. Here we are joining with 371 again in Nashville. It's signed for the Nashville Business District. And as we split from 371, we're signed for Locksburg for 371, and then Dierks for 278. So Dierks, I don't really love that, but that's what we got. So Center Point 7, Dierks 17. Dierks is signed for US 70, but I don't think it's that major of a junction in terms of just where both roads go and their angles. We have Junction US 70 and Dierks, both 10 miles. Like, they're the same place, just sign one of them. Like, you don't have to sign both of these. So, after this, we do merge with US 70, and we're signed for New Hope 12 miles and Hot Springs 67. I do like the Hot Springs sign. I wish it had held it up and not switched to Kirby, but at least we have it here during the concurrency. And when the concurrency ends, we have Kirby signed, like I said before, and then we have Umpire and Wickes signed for 278. So at least it's not just Umpire, we do have Wickes, a more substantial place, but I don't really think either of these should be signed. So we do have them on the mileage signs. We don't have just a single line item for either of these, so that's good. They're not going to pull the same stuff they did going eastbound, but I really think since... So, Wickes is where the route ends, sure, but it's only a few hundred people, and even though you do meet US 71, US 71 goes to Mina, and also Fort Smith, so I think either one of those would probably work. I would say Mina, just because I don't think 49 is going to exist in here for a while, so I would say switch this to Mina, and then maybe if it ends at 49, or even if it just meets 49, I would just sign for Fort Smith. But since 49's not here yet, I'd say Mina. And we have Wickes and Junction US 71, both 18 miles. Again, you're doing the same thing with Dierks and US 70. You're signing the US Highway Junction as well as the town it's in. But problem is it goes right through town, so it's like, I don't really understand why both of them are signed. It should be Wickes, Mina, Wickes, Fort Smith, or Junction US 71 and Mina or Fort Smith. However, we do find the end of 278. We have Junction US 71 and US 59. South is signed for DeQueen, and North is signed for Mina, so that's pretty good for these highways. But I kind of wish Mina was signed for 278 out of Nashville, though. And as we merge onto northbound, we do have Cove and Mina signed, so Mina is on the mileage sign. And that will wrap up 278. It's been a lot of videos, been a lot of time recording all this. And going to the super verdicts, I will discuss all the control cities. So going eastbound, I'd say Nashville from the jump, no Wickes, no Umpire. Well, Wickes is where it starts, so no Umpire. Definitely no Dierks, nothing like that. Like, Nashville all the way, because it is signed from the beginning. Then I'd say Hope, after that, because you meet I-30 and US 67. Canton after that, because US 79, that's fairly a big town. And Hampton, Warren, Monticello, McGehee. I think those are fine, because you meet US highways there, and again, they got a few thousand people each. Then it's in Greenville, first major city in Mississippi on the route. Then Leland, even though it is kind of close to Greenville, I think signing Leland out of Greenville is fine because of, you know, US 82 and US 61. Then I'd say Cleveland, and then Clarksdale, because those are kind of big towns. And then Batesville after that, because you meet I-55. Then Oxford because of Ole Miss. Then Tupelo because of I-22, and it's a pretty big city in Mississippi. Then I'd say Amory / Columbus once you're on 45. Then I'd say Amory. And after that, I'd say Guin and Birmingham, since Guin is the town where you would split off to get to Birmingham. And then I'd say Hamilton, then Double Springs / Coleman, and then only Coleman. Then after that, I'd say Gadsden because of I-59. Piedmont, Atlanta, because Piedmont is where the cutoff to Atlanta is. Then I'd say Cedartown's first, like, sort of like town in Georgia that you wouldn't really get to Atlanta, so that works. Then I'd say Rockmart after that, and then Dallas/Atlanta. I'd start signing some of these suburbs along with Atlanta, so Power Springs, Atlanta, Austell, Atlanta. Then I'd say Mableton, since there's a faster way to Atlanta after Austell. So I'd say I-285 after Mableton, and then I'd say Georgia Tech/Midtown, since it kind of goes through both of those. And then continuing eastbound, I'd say Decatur after that, because that's where 78 splits. Then I'd say I-285, and then from I-285, I'd say Lithonia. I know Lithonia is not really that big, but you at least meet I-20 there, so I think that's okay. And then once you're on I-20, I'd say Augusta. Then when you split, it's like Covington, Madison, Greensboro, Union Point. I wouldn't sign Crawfordville at all. I would say Warrenton. Then Thompson, because it's kind of like the Arkansas thing where there's a lot of highways and, like, you know, towns of like a few thousand people, so I think those will work. And then Harlem after that, because there's a faster way to Augusta after Thompson. And then I'd say Augusta from Harlem, then Barnwell, South Carolina, then Allendale/Hampton, then Hampton only, then Ridgeland, because that's where you meet I-95 roughly. And then Hardyville/Hilton Head Island, and then Hilton Head Island for going eastbound. And then going westbound, I'd say Hardyville/I-95, and then once you get a little closer, I'd say I-95 Savannah. Then Ridgeland, Hampton, Allendale/Augusta, then Barnwell, Augusta, Harlem, Thompson, Warrenton, Union Point, Greensboro, Madison, Covington/Atlanta, because you're being pretty close to Atlanta at that point. Then Atlanta, then Decatur, once you split from I-20, and then I-285 after that. Then I'd say the same thing with Midtown Georgia Tech. Then I'd say I-285, Mableton, Austell, Power Springs, Dallas, Rockmart. I think these are fine to sign coming out of Atlanta, just because there's not really that many big towns along the way after Atlanta, so I think those are fine. And then let's say Cedartown, Piedmont, Gadsden, and continuing, let's say Tala, Coleman, Dulce Springs/Hamilton, and then say Hamilton/Memphis instead of Tupelo there. Then Guin, Ambry, Tupelo, Pontotoc, Oxford, then Oxford, Batesville, Clarksdale, Cleveland, Leland/Greenville, Greenville, Lake Village, McGee, Monticello, Warren, Hampton, Camden, Hope, Nashville, and I'd say Wickes/Neenah. I think that would be my way to go. And that will wrap up 278 for the super verdict. And as a bonus, I will say what states sign 278 the best and the worst in the tier list. And here we are. I'd say Mississippi is an S. They make the least mistakes out of these states. I mean, the only thing I complained about was maybe the Leland sign, but I think you can make a case for it just because it has several junctions. And it's like maybe 3,000–4,000 people. I mean, maybe Greenville isn't so close, I would allow it more, but Mississippi does a pretty good job with the route. Not really anything to complain about. Alabama does pretty good. There's a couple of cities signed, like Sullivan and Double Springs, I'm not crazy for, but they're not, like, completely oddball choices, so I'd say A tier. Then South Carolina, B tier. That weird, like, Switzerland sign, and also, like, the Jackson sign's, like, kind of dumb. I don't think those should be there, but South Carolina otherwise, like, does a pretty good job. Arkansas, same thing. Like once you get to Nashville, like east of Nashville, it's pretty much perfect. It's just west of Nashville is a mess, and that's probably why it's B tier for me. And C tier, I'd say Georgia. Georgia's got like some weird stuff. Like Crawfordville's as a single line item is also extremely weird. Also, they have like the Louisville treatment for 278 where they just have the name of the highway and not necessarily where it goes. So there's that. There's also going into Augusta, they don't sign Augusta as efficiently as they could. So I'd say C tier, but other than that, I mean, Georgia isn't horrible. So I think this is the way I would do it here, and then I'll reveal my future videos. So we did hit 75 subscribers. I'm not sure if everybody knows this that's watching this, but we did hit that. So US 75 is in the works. Then after that, I'd say I-35, I-40 in Oklahoma, and I do I-44 the full route. Since I do kind of want to do interstates again. Like, I do want to switch up between U.S. highways and interstates, and I might throw in some, like, turnpikes or something if you want to see that. And then if we hit 100 subscribers, I will rank all the Arkansas 3-digit interstates. But only if we hit 100 subscribers. So please subscribe if you want to see that. And I'll bring all these up here so you can see them. And then, honestly, just thanks for watching this whole series. I really enjoyed making it. It's a road I really wanted to do, and I'm glad I could do a multi-part series of this. So, yeah, please do everything you see in the lower left-hand corner, and I hope you enjoyed.